Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. Thank you for joining me today. By the way, if you have not yet watched my last video, please do, because I invited Mike Kincaid to come on and share a few things about his baseball career. It's a really neat video. Please, make sure you watch that one. And also, make sure you subscribe, by the way. Right now, I want to answer a question that I received just today. Although Aaron Judge had an insane season, do you think he would have another great season against National League pitching, particularly in the National League West? So what you're saying is, if the Giants signed Aaron Judge, would he have another great season against the new pitching that he'd be facing? And these are good things to think about, because when you look at Judge, you're looking at a guy for whom not even $30 million per year would be enough to pay the salary that he's expecting. It's going to be big money. It's going to be a lot, so that is definitely a legitimate question. Against the competition he faces this year, is he going to have really the same level of success? And actually, I'll just say, before saying anything else, in the analytics class I'm currently taking, I was reading a post by another student who basically said that he thinks that Judge is going to regress to the mean. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I just want to be clear. Regression to the mean is a statistical term that's used, at least in baseball, it's used to evaluate players in relation to what the average is, and when you get statistics that are kind of disproportionately inflated by maybe small sample size or whatever, just the fact that, say you had a coin and you flipped it and you got heads 3 times, well, that would be kind of random, and the way it's applied to baseball is like when you see a player who's maybe performing unusually great and you know that's not sustainable over a longer period of time, then you might say that it was just variation, and there is a way to keep the skill element that's there in your evaluation, but to basically not overweight things that don't occur over a long enough period of time. And this guy does think that Judge is likely to regress to the mean and not to have as fantastic of a season as he had in 2022. Now, this sample size is pretty large. It's over a full season, and it was a breakout even for Judge, who's been a great player throughout his whole career. I will grant that the 2022 season has been a breakout one, but how do you know it's not the start of just a whole new era for Judge? How do you know that he wasn't on to something great from his rookie year, which I believe was 2016 or 2017 up until now, and that now he's on to something, well, even better? That's kind of the way I look at it. I don't know what's going to happen. It's not that every single year in his career is going to be as great as this one, but it's certainly predictive of a lot. You want to go after the best players in the game of baseball, and that's the way to go. You're just looking at it. You want to start from the top, sign the best guys. You're looking at it that way. Aaron Judge is definitely the way to go. He batted .311. He hit 62 home runs from that perspective. Now, the specific question you're asking is, against National League pitching, would there be any difference? I've heard that basically people wonder, would Babe Ruth still be a star if he played in the modern game of baseball? And I don't want to get off on a rabbit trail. This is something kind of extreme here. Would Babe Ruth still be a star if he played in today's game? And I've got some opinions about that. One of which is, I really don't think that his bat power would be lost. I think his bat power you can't ignore, and that it would be there in today's game. But that's not what we're asking here. We're just looking at from league to league here with Aaron Judge. We don't need to worry about what happened a century ago We're talking about Aaron Judge. Would he be good against National League pitching? That's all we're looking at. And the first thing I think I should mention is that I'm not sure that there's a big, huge difference in the way talent is distributed between the National League and American League. I want to say this carefully, that there are going to be some differences, but I think if you look at the leagues as a whole, I'm really not sure that there's some kind of difference in one league having good pitchers and the other league not. I don't think that's really too much. I'm saying not too much of a thing at any time, although it's not like I've never heard things about one league being stronger than the other. I'm just saying I think that they both have ways of getting talent, and so it really does get distributed between both leagues. So I wouldn't worry about Judge coming over that just because he's coming to the National League, he's going to be facing some kind of new pool of pitching talent that he necessarily hasn't seen. I wouldn't worry too much about it just being a new pool of pitching talent, because I think the National and American leagues are too closely related, being in the same game of Major League Baseball, for that to really be too much of a thing. And then you mentioned particularly the National League West, and it does have its great throwers like Joe Musgrove and Walker Buehler. I mean, even Yu Darvish, I think something's expected from him. I mean, he was asked to start Game 1 of the Padres wildcard series, and he pitched well in it. And then you've got Julio Urias for the Dodgers, and yeah, there are these great pitchers out there in the National League West, and the Giants need to make sure they have their share of great pitchers. I mentioned signing none less than Jacob deGrom. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of money this offseason, but sometimes what a big offseason costs, and the Giants need to get their share of good pitchers too. If the National League West is going to get stocked up on good pitchers, Giants need to get that too. So whether Judge was benefiting from a kind of maybe weaker American League East that he could just hammer, I'm not sure. I really haven't done all the research on those teams, so I couldn't tell you if he's benefiting from a kind of a league where you can just hammer everything out there. At least players like him can do that. I really can't say to what extent that's true, but it could be that division has had, some effect, and obviously coming to the National League West, he will face this new pool of pitchers. And again, I'd have to look at the pitchers the other four teams in the American League East have and make my judgment there. But let's say that Judge came over to the Giants and it did become a pitcher's duel, and the Giants, let's say they correctly stuck up for getting their fair share of the great pitchers, and it did become a pitcher's duel. I mean, even in that case, if you've got a guy like Judge, it's not like, I mean, how can I say this? When a team does, in any given game, score more runs than its opponent, it wins. So even if it came down to a pitcher's duel, that the guys that have the great hitters are going to, they're going to be likely to be the teams to come out on top when the pitchers do throw hittable pitches. And in any given game, it's the team that scores more runs than its opponent that wins. The team that, as a whole, pitched and hit better. So what I'm saying here is that even if it did prevent Judge from having as insane of a season as it did in 2022, mathematically, if you try to quantify the whole thing, if you had maybe a bit more of the substance of pitchers holding games together, then you could still have Aaron Judge to kind of break things out in the end for you, and hopefully you'd still get a good expected win-to-loss record in And hopefully it would be a record that would play well into Bill James' Pythagorean formula and get a lot of net wins and a good winning percentage. You see kind of how still getting a guy like Judge could tip, even if he didn't have as crazy of a season as he did in 2022, he could tip things in the Giants' favor if they could hold the other teams down as much with great pitching and they built their roster the correct way. Judge can still tip things in the Giants' favor, and he's going to have a great season in 2023. I'm not sure to what extent. I would love to see him repeat 2022. It's going to be a great season, and he's going to hit some of those home run jacks. Whatever the case, we're going to see a lot from him. And I think the key here is just tipping it in the Giants' favor, whatever happens. You can tip the expected runs scored and allowed, and you can tip the win bucket in the Giants' favor by having the good players on the pitching side and on the hitting side. That's always the key, to have better pitching, better hitting than your opponents, and that's how you use the competitive process to win games. So I hope that answers your question. Feel free to mention anything else, anything you're confused on, or just any other questions that you might have. Anyone, please leave the questions in the comments section. I'd really be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Again, please watch the video where I interview Mike Kincaid, because that's just, it's going to be great, trust me. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. Just thought I'd say that one more time. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.